Quite possibly the greatest example of our broken media infrastructure is this story. Democrats, media, accuse Border Patrol of whipping Haitian migrants. The story is not true, of course. It stems from, first, the border crisis, where you have Haitian migrants going back and forth into and out of the United States, which is shocking and says to me, there's no border anymore. The republic is basically falling. But there's photos of Border Patrol agents on horseback holding the reins. And as they're moving and flailing about on the horses, the reins will shift back and forth. In one of the photos, you see one of the Border Patrol agents holding the rein, and it's going up, and it looks like they may be swinging it or using it. Apparently, this is for steering the horses or for keeping people away from the horses if they're getting too close. Not for striking people. It's just like a leather strap. But the media, Democrats, have said it is horrifying that men on horses are whipping these Haitian migrants. You want to know why this is the perfect example of the media ecosystem? If you Google search the story, what will you see? Well, I'll break this down for you because this is the most important thing you need to see and what you need to be sharing with your friends. When you go to Google, Border Patrol whip, what do you see? Psaki asked about image of Border Patrol agent. White House condemns border guard use of whip-like cord. From Local 10, Biden administration probes mounted U.S. Border Patrol, menacingly swinging a whip. Border Patrol agents use a whip. All of these are News Guard certified. All of these sources claiming that the White House is condemning it or that it happens. AOC Ilhan Omar denounced Border Patrol whipping at Haitian. White House response to horrific photos. News Guard certified. News Guard certified. You know what the media does? Instead of saying Border Patrol agent whips migrants, they say White House condemns, asserting the secondary as fact without actually doing it. And now you can see here, for those that are watching, there is a little red exclamation point. What does that red exclamation point mean? It means proceed with caution. This website severely violates basic journalistic standards. This is the difference between the cult and regular people. So when I talk about the culture war, I often say left and right, sure, we use those terms, liberal, conservative. But I think maybe like cult and not cult is probably one of the better ways to describe it. If you go onto Google and you genuinely believe you should not be doing research, like CNN and many other leftists have said, don't do your own research because you're not an expert. That's insane. You should be doing research. And what would you discover? All of the sources that are certified with the green check mark are publishing fake news. Now, hold on. The headlines are just quoting someone else. Why? The White House condemns the use of whips. We never said they actually used whips on the border. The Federalist, the one source deemed fake news by NewsGuard, is the only one telling the truth. Dems spread Border Patrol whip lie while failing to fix, and then I think it's the failing to fix the border. What do they say? Failing to address growing border crisis. So if you Google search this story, you will be inundated by New York Mag, Local 10, Reuters, NBC News, Yahoo, Sky.com, and Politico giving you lies. But NewsGuard says they good. The Federalist telling you the truth, they bad. Amazing, isn't it? And people base their worldview off of this. So long as people at NewsGuard, and I use NewsGuard, all of my sources are always NewsGuard certified. Why? Well, I can show you these stories. I can tell you the Federalist is being honest, but as a check on my bias and to prove a point, I will fact check using NewsGuard approved sources. Like this one, the Daily Caller, with a score of 70 out of 100, calling out the lies. Democrats and media accuse Border Patrol of whipping Haitian migrants. You see, this is the big problem we have. None of these news outlets fact checked anything. They didn't Google what the whips were. And to be fair, when I was recording a segment on it, I said it looks like they're whipping or using a lasso or something. I think he's trying to lasso the guy, I guess. I don't know if that's true. Apparently, no. He's just holding the reins of the horse to steer it. And when you move around fast, they swing around. And that's the state of the media. Now, this is why I introduce this segment in this way. This is what you need to show people. You know, Alex Jones comes on the show and he says a whole bunch of crazy stuff and people just don't understand it and they don't believe it. But I can show you the proof. I can show you every outlet claiming the lies are reality. And the one they accuse of being fake news is the one telling you the truth. I'm not saying the Federalist has not proven fake news in the past. They've gotten things wrong for sure. But so has everyone else. They just say, we found 3 instances of fake news, so we strike you. Yet ABC and NBC and New York Times, how many times have they published fake news? I mean, they got us into the Iraq War, basically, all these big mainstream outlets. That was all fake news. Oh, but they're deemed credible. Why? For no real reason. The Daily Caller reports, several politicians and media outlets claimed Monday that Border Patrol agents were whipping Haitian migrants at the southern border after video and pictures emerged of agents riding horseback with reins. MSNBC host Joy Reid alleged Monday that Border Patrol agents were using whips from the slave era to herd migrants at the border. Quote, I know funding for the government begins in the House, Reid said while speaking with Democratic Minnesota Rep. Ilhan Omar. Should we be looking at the budget of Homeland Security? Because I was not aware that whips, which come from the slave era, no, they don't come from that era, slavery era, were part of the package that we issue to any sort of law enforcement or government sanctioned personnel. Were you aware that were you aware that was being issued to people? That people had that kind of equipment on them that they could use on humans? Omar responded that she was quite appalled and alleged that systemic racism was in play. First of all, those were not reins. Second of all, that's not what systemic racism is. You see the problem I have with the left. They say things and they have no idea what they're talking about. Systemic racism can be easily explained to people. And I think if you were actually honestly explaining it, people might be like, oh, I get that. Here's systemic racism. It doesn't mean institutional racism, though people on the left don't understand definitions and use them interchangeably because they have no idea what they're doing or talking about. Systemic means from the system, within the system. It's very simple. When slavery ends and you have white people who inherit wealth, be it small wealth, be it a home, and black people who don't, there are 2 tracks in this country where one community is disproportionately impacted and one is able to carry on. When you have segregation, blockbusting, and redlining, making it harder for black families to buy homes and build up wealth for their families, and that doesn't occur with any other race in this country, for the most part, it specifically was targeting black families, then they will have less wealth by today's standards on average. That is systemic racism. Institutional racism is like affirmative action. When an institution says we are going to punish Asians, they're being institutionally racist. Now, the funny thing is those things all exist. Just not in the way the left explains it. It makes no sense when they explain it. And then conservatives, not understanding what it's really supposed to represent, condemn the fake definition from the left. You get the point. When the left is like, racism is prejudice plus power, and the right says, that's nonsense. It's like, has anyone really gotten to the crux of what people are actually trying to talk about? Or is it mucked up by lunatics on the left who don't know what they're saying? Anyway, let's read. Quote, the fact that we are dealing with mainly black migrants and black immigrants and asylum seekers at our border in this kind of way really speaks to the kind of racism, systematic racism that is embedded in the department of all and all of the departments that deal with our immigration policy. You see, what Ilhan Omar is doing is using buzzwords. She's not actually explaining how this is systemic racism because it's not. Law enforcement is not inherently racist. That makes no sense. Oh, but they try to make the claim police departments are descendants from slave patrols in some places, perhaps. But the actual story is that police departments were imported from Europe as centralized law enforcement. Surprise, surprise. Not as slave patrols. In fact, I think the first police departments were actually in like New Jersey or something. Not a slave state. Video and pictures posted to social media appear to show Border Patrol agents herding their own horses and Haitian migrants who were trying to enter the U.S. near Del Rio, Texas, area of the border. The agents were on horseback and were carrying what Reid claimed were whips. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas appeared to deny the use of whips Monday, telling a reporter who questioned the alleged whipping of the migrants that they were assuming facts. You are assuming facts, if I may say respectfully. You are assuming facts that have not yet been determined. Chief Ortiz is an experienced Border Patrol agent who's ridden horses and trained others to ride horses, can provide great detail on the specifics, Mayorkas said. The DHS secretary also explained that he was horrified to see images, according to the Washington Post. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz said horse patrol units were deployed as more than 10,000, mostly Haitian migrants, camp out under the Del Rio Bridge. Let me show you a photo of what we got going on. It's grainy. It's hard to see. But as you can see here, it's no longer just camping out. These are tent cities. This is a tent city. More and more people are coming. It's not slowing down. USA Today says As of yesterday, 600 more Homeland Security agents are being sent to Del Rio, Texas, amid Haitian migrant crisis. We keep having a migrant crisis. It's not ending. Biden ain't doing anything about it. Now, these Border Patrol agents who are coming down, fair to say there's some effort. More Homeland Security coming down, fair to say more effort. But why isn't Texas doing something? Okay, maybe it's unfair to say Biden's doing nothing. I'll put it this way. People are going to say, Tim, you just showed us he's sending more people down to deal with this. No, Biden could have dealt with this a long time ago. This is really funny. Yesterday on the show, Alex Jones was like, Joe Biden said, if I'm elected, people should surge the border and we should have everyone come. And I was like, come on. There's no way Joe Biden said surge the border. So I Googled it. And Joe Biden said surge the border. He said we should surge the borders, though. So I think he was saying no, I'm sorry. I would like to assume that Joe Biden was saying we, as the Americans, will surge security to the border. But he said people should come. He was saying people should surge the border, and now they are. So I'm sorry. Okay, maybe it's unfair to say in the literal sense Biden's doing nothing, but I certainly don't think he's trying to stop the crisis. And then you see these videos of people with the horse reins and the left lies about it. Let me pull up this one. The National Fraternal Order of Police says, for all you Twitter warriors out there, these are not whips. And no Border Patrol agent are not whipping people. They are reins. Reins, stay with us here, like a steering wheel is used to drive a car. The reins are used to drive the horse. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk. A rather spicy statement from the National Fraternal Order of Police, to which Michael Malice chimes in with, every cop is a criminal. I saw that. I couldn't resist. I do not believe every cop is a criminal. Michael, you're so hyperbolic, aren't you? No, Michael's made his argument. He believes it. No, I think many cops are criminals. I think many cops, even cops you would say are good cops, are not. Like I said this in the last segment, when Antifa is smashing up small businesses and destroying people's lives, I say Antifa is the bad guy. When the police come in and start shutting down small businesses with the government's approval, well, then they're the same thing as Antifa, just with the T's crossed and the lowercase j's dotted. So I'm not going to sit here and defend the police when they're the ones who are basically destroying these businesses. That being said, I'm actually happy we have Border Patrol and police trying to stop illegal immigrants storming into the country. Now, what does AOC do? AOC tries to make this claim that immigrants deserve to be taken care of and asylees have broken no law. She's lying to you. That's what she does. These people are not legal asylees. They are illegal immigrants, or illegal aliens, I think is the legal term for it. Now, they can file an asylum claim. But as I think it was Homan, who was the director of DHS, what was his position? I can't remember his exact position, but he answered her saying they actually did break the laws, and then he reads off the law and states entering without going through official border is a crime in the United States. I think it's a civil infraction. I'm not sure. Actually, I think the Democrats tried changing it. It's criminal. But if you are a legal asylee, you go to a checkpoint and say, please help me. I don't want to die. I think we should help refugees and asylum seekers. 100%. I don't believe we should help asylum seekers and refugees who are flying from Africa to Brazil and then coming up the southern border. Haitian migrants. Okay, you want to come from Haiti, then where do you go? Florida, I guess. So why are they going to Mexico? It's because the southern border is broken. It's because Joe Biden broke the southern border. Donald Trump certainly was patching that thing up and reducing the amount of people coming through. Joe Biden did the opposite. Now we have people knowing this. Instead of coming to a U.S. port of entry and saying we need help, they go into Mexico because they know their best bet to get in is to cross the Rio Grande, particularly the Del Rio sector. And boy, is it working. So what does the left do? AOC comes out and says they're migrants. No. You can argue they're economic migrants entering illegally. Fine. Let's get semantic. But they are not refugees. They're not asylum seekers. Some of them may claim asylum, but you don't go from Haiti to Mexico to the U.S. when you need asylum. You go to a U.S. port of entry and you file a claim. And I believe we should help those people. Now, for Haiti in particular, they had a big earthquake. I definitely think we should help them. Interestingly, Alex Jones, he's talking to me yesterday, said they're refugees. The third world is being destroyed by the global elites. You know, well, he's not wrong. I still wouldn't call them refugees, but Jones pointed out there was a UN report, a UN statement, that the lockdowns, I think it was a doctor with the UN, the lockdowns would result in like 250 million people starving. And I think they're correct. I mean, far be it for me to question the experts, right? But what happens then is all of these people who live in these places where there's limited food become desperate and they'll do anything to get it. So I'll tell you this. Do I blame the individual Haitian for coming into Mexico and then trying to cross the border? No. I mean, who doesn't want to be in the United States? Do I blame Border Patrol for not being able to handle the situation? No. I mean, we see them on horseback trying to stop these people. Do I blame Joe Biden for basically breaking the policies that Trump put in place that were protecting our southern border and not doing enough to actually fix the problem? If you can argue he's doing anything at all, it's Biden's fault. It's Biden and his administration. Kamala Harris didn't even come down to the border, and the border crisis has been ongoing their entire presidency. They don't care. People are literally dying. They don't care. Quote, what I asked our Horse Patrol units to do yesterday is to do an assessment and find out if we have any individuals in distress and to be able to provide information and intelligence as to what the smuggling organizations were doing in and around the river. As was witnessed in the videos and some of the pictures, the migrants were going back and forth. We do not know who are the smugglers or who are the migrants. So it's important that those Border Patrol agents maintain a level of security for both themselves and for their migrant population as they were trafficking back and forth. Ortiz also noted the agency would look into alleged misconduct, but added agents are careful not to hurt migrants. A Border Patrol agent told Fox News the alleged whips were actually just horse reins. We do not carry whips, and the only thing I see in their hands is reins. There is no way a Horse Patrol unit would be whipping aliens. Whips are not issued or authorized for use. I will say, one of the funniest things I've ever seen, I was in Anaheim, and there was a protest. You get close to, was it Disney World? I don't know which one's over there. The Disney place. And the police ain't going to let you get too close. The police on horseback had bokken. Do you know what a bokken is? It is a wooden katana. And I just thought that was kind of funny. I'm like, all right, if it's effective. But it's just funny to see a cop riding a horse holding a bokken. I just think that's weird. As for the whips, I didn't think they were whips initially. I heard the reporting. I didn't do a full-on report like breaking news, everyone, they're using whips. But I did passively mention when we were on the Timcast IRL show, I was like, I guess they're whipping people or something. And I think it was Phil who said they're using lassos. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Didn't know enough about it to report on it or make a public statement. But I did notice when I was reading it, I was like, maybe they're lassoing them, but this doesn't look like a lasso. I didn't know how they use the reins. Apparently, when they're riding, they'll spin the reins like this. Where am I at? Where's my hand? There you go. They'll roll it like that. And so it's spinning around. And they do that to keep people, I could be wrong about this, from getting too close to the horse, not to whack someone with it, which I don't understand why they'd be doing anyway. They're going to mention National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd told the town hall that agents are trained to spin their reins to deter people from getting close to migrants. Well, there you go. You'll notice none of the pictures show any person being struck by the reins. But of course, that's not going to be the story. We do not strike people, nor was anybody struck in this particular case. So what do we have? CNN. White House says it's seeking more information on horrific footage of Border Patrol agents confronting Haitian immigrants. You see, they're very careful in their headline. We have Joy Reid pushing the Border Patrol whip narrative. We've got this from YouTube. Border Patrol agent seen holding whip during encounter with Haitian migrants. Perhaps he's holding a switch. I don't see someone holding a whip. Here's a rein he's holding on the horse. Here's one guy holding what looks to be a switch, not a whip. I don't see a whip. Sorry. Maybe, I guess, whatever. We got this one from New York Mag. Border Patrol agents use whip to chase down Haitian migrants. He's literally holding the reins of the horse. Isn't that amazing that they call it a whip, not a whip? And then you get the Federalist. Democrats spread Border Patrol whip lie while failing to address growing border crisis. Please show this image, okay? Screenshot or post something like this where all of the NewsGuard certified sources push the lie indirectly. White House condemns use of whip-like cord. White House condemns horrifying images, as if to imply that it actually happened. I'll tell you this. I hereby condemn, Jen Psaki. Beating children is wrong. You see how the game is played? I hereby condemn Jen Psaki. Beating children is wrong. Two completely different statements that create an impression. So, when they say, White House condemns border guard use of whip-like cord, or Psaki asked about image of Border Patrol agent, or mercilessly, or what is it? What did they say? I don't know if they said mercilessly. Border Patrol agent uses whip to chase down Haitian migrants. That's a direct statement. But when Jen Psaki says, I condemn the use of whip-like cords or the whips, and the media can say they condemn the use of whips, it makes it sound like the whips were actually used. So here's how the game is played. You could say something like, Jen Psaki is accused of beating children. And then I could say, I hereby condemn the White House's ignoring of Jen Psaki beating children. I never said she beat children. All right. Or I should put it this way. You can then say, Tim Pool denounces Jen Psaki for beating children, implying she did. You get the point. This is the image. This is how the media works. The one outlet on Google that's telling the truth is the one called fake news. And that's why people believe in the cult. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.